Clara lived in house number 24 on the quiet Acacia Street. Eduardo lived at number 33, just down the block. They had never spoken. Every day, Clara passed by with her groceries, holding them with care, her head slightly down, her steps light like a whisper. Eduardo would often be sitting on his porch reading, headphones in, always lost in the same peaceful silence. They had no idea how alike they were. Both were single, quiet, and solitary, in a way that didn't scream loneliness, just a kind of shy comfort. But fate, like a child who can't stand still, had plans. One Sunday, the city held a street fair. Clara rarely went out, but that morning she'd gone to buy bread. Eduardo had taken a detour while walking, looking for a quieter route. That's when it happened. Near the square, volunteers were giving away puppies from a rescue shelter. Clara approached, almost shyly, and one of the little dogs licked her hand. She smiled, really smiled. She named her Daisy Taunt Eduardo, watching from afar, was also approached by a small dog, wagging its tail in a hopeful rhythm. It had eyes that seemed to say, "Hey, I'm yours." He took him home and named him Buddy. That same afternoon, Daisy barked happily on Clara's porch, while Buddy barked back 2 houses down. The dogs had noticed each other before their humans had. Clara and Eduardo didn't yet know it, but 2 hearts had just taken their first steps toward a meeting. A week after the adoptions, life on Acacia Street returned to its quiet rhythm. Daisy and Buddy had grown into tiny balls of joy. Clara would walk Daisy in the mornings, and Eduardo would take Buddy out in the afternoons, always managing to miss each other until the city decided to dig. One Tuesday morning, the city hall began maintenance on the old piping system. Big machines arrived, and right in front of Clara's house, a huge hole was dug. The hole was cordoned off, but not well enough. That afternoon, Daisy got excited at the sound of a bark. She jumped the low fence and ran down the street. Buddy, who had also gotten loose, ran to meet her. And in the blink of an eye, both puppies fell into the open hole, yelping, frightened, and confused. Clara heard the barking and ran outside. Eduardo, alerted by the noise, also rushed out. Their eyes met. No one spoke. They just ran toward the hole. Daisy whimpered. Buddy barked for help. Clara leaned over the edge, her hands trembling. Eduardo climbed down halfway, and, together, they pulled the dogs out, covered in mud but unharmed. Clara looked at Eduardo, her voice unsteady. "I was so scared." "Me too," he replied, looking at her for the first time like someone who had just discovered something precious. "I think we need to take them to the vet." He nodded. They didn't exchange names, just held the puppies close and walked side by side to the veterinary clinic. Something had shifted. In the street, in the earth, and in their hearts. The veterinary clinic smelled of antiseptic and chamomile. Clara sat on one side of the small waiting room, cradling Daisy in a soft blanket. Eduardo sat opposite, gently petting Buddy's head, who was now calm but visibly tired. For a few seconds, silence hung in the air, shy and clumsy, until Eduardo broke it. "I think our dogs might be soulmates." Clara chuckled softly. They did fall together. He smiled, encouraged. "I'm Eduardo." "Clara, I've seen you before, on the street. I never knew you had such a brave dog. I adopted her last week." "Same day you did, I think." They looked at each other, surprised. "It's funny, isn't it?" he said, "how the same street can keep two people from meeting for so long." Clara lowered her eyes, shy. "I guess we were both busy not being seen. The vet called for them." Together, they stood and walked into the exam room. No longer strangers, no longer invisible. The clinic room was bright but warm. There were plants in the corner and a painting of puppies under a sunny sky. Dr. Helena, with her calm voice and precise hands, asked them to place the dogs on the exam table. Clara laid Daisy down gently, as if placing a piece of her heart. Eduardo did the same with Buddy, keeping a hand on him the whole time. Dr. Helena examined Buddy first. "He's strong. Just a few scratches and a fright. He'll be fine with a warm bath and some love." Eduardo let out a deep breath of relief. Then she turned to Daisy. She gently moved the little paw and frowned slightly. Clara's heart tightened. "Is something wrong?" "A small sprain in her ankle. Nothing serious, but she'll need a splint for a few days, and she'll feel some pain." Clara blinked quickly, fighting back tears. Seeing her tiny puppy hurt shook something inside her she didn't expect. "Hey, it'll be okay," Eduardo said softly, placing his hand over hers. A small, sincere gesture. Clara looked down at their hands, hers cold and delicate, his steady and warm, and in that moment, she understood. She wasn't alone in her fear anymore. Daisy whimpered softly as the splint was set. Clara whispered gentle words to her like a lullaby. When it was over, the vet handed them care instructions. Outside, the sky was already turning dark. They walked back together, puppies in arms, their steps synchronized. At Clara's gate, Eduardo asked, "Careful? Do you have someone at home to help you with her?" She shook her head. "Just me, but I'm used to handling everything alone." He paused. "If you need, I could help. With her, with anything." Clara smiled, with her eyes more than her lips. "Maybe I do need help, holding up the world sometimes. Then maybe we can hold it together," he replied. And just like that, two once lonely people began to walk the same sidewalk. And something opened inside them. Not fear, not doubt, but the fragile beginning of trust. Night fell softly over Acacia Street. Windows lit up one by one. Quiet lives behind curtains. At her front gate, Clara hesitated. "Do you want to come in? Just for coffee?" Eduardo smiled. "Only if you promise not to let Buddy jump on the couch." "I can't promise anything. He already owns it." They laughed. Clara opened the door. The house was small and full of quiet charm. Lavender scented, filled with books and soft light. She settled Daisy on a pillow. Eduardo did the same with Buddy, who curled up beside her like they'd always belonged together. Coffee brewed slowly on the stove. They sat on the couch, steam rising between them. "You know," Eduardo said, "I never thought adopting a dog would help me find someone who understands my silence." Clara looked at her cup. "I never thought anyone would care about my flowers. Or my pauses. They were quiet. But it was the kind of quiet that speaks." Buddy stretched. Daisy gave a little whimper. Then they nestled into each other and fell asleep. "I think they were meant to find each other," he said. "Maybe we were too," Clara whispered. Then, shyly, "Or maybe it wasn't coincidence at all." Eduardo looked into her eyes. For the first time, steady and certain. "Coincidence would have been never meeting you, but I saw you every day. I just didn't know how to begin. And life made a hole in the street," she smiled, "and threw our dogs into it, and pulled us out," she said. Together, they held hands. This time, not by accident, not out of fear. On the floor, Daisy and Buddy slept side by side. No rush, no worry. And on Clara's couch, two hearts, once timid, once lonely, finally found something warmer than silence. They found each other.